Thank you all for being here. And there are also people who are watching us online as well. So it's not just the people who are physically here, there are others who are joining us as well for what is going to be a very, very special evening that I know I'm looking forward to, and I know that everybody here is doing the same. We've spoken about this evening for a while. I think when you were, Merle and I have had a discussion about the book and about certainly the relationship that she's had with Michael, and that, oh, here, come on in. Come on in, come on. And the unique bond that Merle has had and the opportunity that she's had to transform that bond into the written word, and especially through poetry, which is one of the ways that we've known Merle for so many, many years, is not necessarily through law, but through words and the opportunity to communicate those words to us in such a very insightful and spiritual way. So I don't want to say anything more because I don't want to take any time away from Merle, because we are here to be with her this evening. What again is going to be a very special opportunity. We thank you for being here tonight.
So thank you, Rabbi Seed, and thanks to all of you for joining me this evening. Before I begin, let's pause to gently, as a group, inhale and slowly exhale into this moment. In times of darkness, in very challenging times, such as we are living through right now, it's easy to slip into a state of hopelessness, to minimize our ability to help ourselves and others, and to forget that we have powers that we can use to elevate life. But when we take control of our whirling thoughts and move to a place of clarity, we open ourselves up to inspiration, intuition, and to being a blessing to ourselves and to others. My book, Michael and Me, delves into these truths. For our family, reality shattered when our son Michael, at the age of 20, was diagnosed with a rare form of melanoma. My poem, Blue Nevis, looks at this pivotal moment, and I will start the evening with Blue Nevis from Michael and Me. Blue Nevis. 19, and there's a small lump living behind Michael's left earlobe. Doctor says, harmless, and he starts engineering at Windsor. But it grows. Innocuous, physician says. Weeks creep while doubt digs. Dermatologist opines. No rush to react. Wait. He scoops out the bump, sends it for study. Phone rings. Michael answers. Say nothing to me. Drives us there. In the parking lot, he tells me they said, don't come alone. The doctor slots into the room. Death's shadow rises from his mouth. Sitting stock still, Michael breaks a cold sweat. I barely breathe. The car takes us home. Oncologist identifies it, Blue Nevis, rare as icicles in July. The name floats off the tongue like a comet, a constellation. He carves away a fistful of scalp, prescribes meds, a decade of tests, the warning, cancer can recur any time. Head bandaged beneath a black bandana, Michael returns to theorems, volleyball, and pool. With fear stuffed inside jean pockets, he pulls his frame high and lives. Months after Michael's diagnosis, I developed fibromyalgia. There was no cure for my condition, only painkillers. So began my healing journey. I investigated alternative healing methods and energy work, starting with gentle, mindful yoga classes based on the approach of Jon Kabat-Zinn. My pain gradually lessened and my endurance increased. These improvements highlighted for me our power to effect positive changes in the body. More time passed, and I felt strong enough to try Qigong classes. Qigong is an effective discipline that is part of traditional Chinese medicine. Qi means vital energy, and Gong is skill cultivated through steady practice. My body became more resilient and able to recover faster from fibromyalgia flare-ups. A few weeks into the course, our Qigong instructor played a videotaped interview of Adam McLeod, who at that point was only known as Adam, the Dream Healer. At the time of filming, Adam was 17 years old, a high school student living in Vancouver. It was said that he had used distant healing energy to help cure the singer Ronnie Hawkins of terminal pancreatic cancer. My instructor told us that Adam was coming to Toronto to give a healing workshop specifically for sufferers of fibromyalgia. I enrolled. During the workshop, I sensed something shifting within my solar plexus. The next morning, when I got out of bed, my body felt light and free of the burden of heavy, sore muscles. The fibromyalgia pain, fatigue, and other symptoms had disappeared, never to return. Without medication or any physical contact, Adam had cured me of fibromyalgia. Sometime later, a friend told me that she was having Reiki treatments to reduce her stress. Reiki is a Japanese form of energy healing. In Japanese, Rei means universal, and Ki means life energy. Reiki improves the flow of energy in the body and removes blockages in a similar way to acupuncture. Reiki treats the whole person, body, emotions, mind, and spirit. It supports the body's natural ability to heal itself. I was intrigued. I often worried about Michael's health, and I held on to the sadness of my parents' sudden deaths. Perhaps Reiki could help me come to terms with these challenges. Each session brought me to a place of serenity. I experienced a profound sense of well-being and feelings of lightness. During these treatments, knowledge passed from my subconscious to my waking consciousness by means of brief insights, image flashes, and swirling colors. Over time, I allowed myself to release more deeply during the Reiki treatments, and I began to see issues more clearly and from a different perspective. I became acutely aware of my spiritual self. I wanted to know more, so while we were staying in Arizona, I took a course in Level 1 Reiki healing that enabled me to give myself and others Reiki energy. A couple of years later, I studied Level 2 Reiki, whereby I was able to send Reiki through time and space. These skills resonated for me with Adam the Dream Healer's ability to heal without direct physical contact. When I returned home from the Reiki training session, I learned that our son Michael's recent imaging work had shown that he had lesions on his neck, spine, and hip. He was going for further testing, but his doctor thought it was probably cancer. Additional tests confirmed our worst fears. After 11 years of being cancer-free, the melanoma had returned, this time at an advanced stage. Instead of panic, I felt guided. I tapped into the power of intuition and trusted my insights and my positive experiences with various forms of energy healing. Which brings me to the second poem I've chosen to read to you tonight, which is entitled, I Shall Know Why When Time Is Over, and that title is a line from a poem by the poet Emily Dickinson. I shall know why when time is over. Through the hourglass, beat by beat, particles of being pass. First the separations, the squeeze, spark, slipping weeks onto fine threads. Metamorphosis, reasons, fantasy. When next sensed, it perplexes, this switch that hints of the underside, unsolvable riddles, the curve of glass, holograms flickering on walls, the sweet ring of atoms. Time's questions twist and turn, truth flickers. Constant hourglass, elliptical breath, cryptic future, past. Immediately after speaking to Michael, I called my Reiki master, Lois. I just spoke to our son. His doctor suspects that his melanoma has returned. Would you be willing to send him Reiki? If any of the people from my training class are open to supporting Michael, it would be wonderful if they too would send him Reiki. Although these fine people had only known me briefly, and none of them had ever met my son, they all agreed to support him in his healing journey. Of course, I was also able to send Michael energy and to give him hands-on Reiki treatments, but I trusted that the more positive energy he received from various sources, the better it would be for him. I was certain that Michael would benefit in many ways from receiving Reiki energy. I was grateful for these insights, and I was encouraged to continue following my instincts. The next possible source of assistance was apparent. I went to the computer to find out when Adam the Dream Healer would next be in Toronto. I was confident that Adam would be able to help Michael, and that Michael would connect well with his teachings. Amazingly, Adam was scheduled to give a one-day healing session in Toronto in a few days, on February 18th. That session was already completely sold out. Oh no, Michael had to be there, I told myself. The timing of this presentation was perfect, right before the start of any cancer treatments. I recalled that my friend Katie had been attending Adam's workshops regularly. My intuition whispered that she had a ticket for February 18th. I decided to call her and ask. I briefly explained the situation. Yes, I bought 3 tickets for Adam's lecture. One for me, one for my husband, and one for my daughter, Michelle. A couple of days ago, something came up for Michelle, and she can't attend the session. We would be delighted to give Michael this ticket as a gift and to have him sit with us at the workshop. What else can I do to help you? I just got a shiver up my back remembering that Michelle, the feminine version of Michael's name, he went on her ticket. It was just really, yeah, special. These positive, amazing coincidences continue to show up in our lives. The loving generosity of many people flowed freely to my son, to me, and to our family. In retrospect, I see that coincidences began swirling around us well before Michael's diagnosis. Through the gift of my fibromyalgia and my quest to heal myself through energy work, I had built a network of healers whom I trusted. Michael was happily married. He had a 2-year-old daughter, and his wife was 7 months pregnant with their son. Michael, like his father, was pragmatic and conservative. When he was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 20, he wanted to keep his health issues private, and we respected his wishes. Now my understanding of life and health were very different, and I was sure that he would benefit from the assistance, love, and energy work of others. I told him about Reiki, and he consented to a treatment. Michael found the Reiki energy both calming and positive. He agreed to more sessions and to receiving distance Reiki from others. I was grateful. I told Michael about Adam the Dream Healer, and that I'd been able to get him a ticket to attend the session that was being held in 9 days' time. Michael agreed to go, provided that he felt physically comfortable enough to sit through the full-day session. I said that I would drive him there and wait for him in the lobby in case he wanted to leave early. Michael began to open his mind, heart, and body to the concepts and power of energy healing. Michael and I drove to Adam's workshop. At the lunch break, Michael was eager to share his thoughts. It's very interesting. Adam is impressive. During the healing work and visualizations, I could sense warm healing energy enter my back and lessen my discomfort. My pelvic area feels better. Michael was able to comfortably stay for the entire day of lectures and healing work. He felt inspired and excited by Adam's words, and he experienced a positive change in his body. The next day, he said that he was feeling better and that the locus of pain had shifted. He wanted to work with Adam. Was this possible? Was there someone who could help us? So, not surprisingly, the next poem I'm going to share with you is entitled Adam the Dream Healer. Adam the Dream Healer. Another loop in the cosmic flow. February 18, life's number. This healing day began with Michael's diagnosis. The room teeming, hundreds of gray faces, necks craning to catch a glimpse of faith. Wheelchairs, walkers, wounds, the sick seeking grace. From thousands of miles, Adam plucked cancer out of rocker Ronnie Hawkins, cured the incurable. Michael's turn. Cushioned behind bitten bones, he cups breath, prays. Adam sees within disease distortions, conjures holograms, clears and sorts. Move close, he says, speak, link. While they visualize marshaling cells, Adam repairs. The hall pulses, silence. Michael's mind wraps around the images, mends the unseen. He feels the power, Adam's healer hands, though never touched. Wondrous, spine and pelvis eased in nourishing light. Nascent hope takes root. Morning, Michael wakes to the day. Pain's locus shifts. At this time, Adam was no longer working with people privately, but instead he gave workshops teaching the skills participants could use to heal themselves. I contacted the Qigong master, Dr. Effie Chow, who had helped train Adam years before, and she agreed to work with Michael. At this juncture, we had clearly experienced the power of intuition, trust, and energy healing. The next step was opening to the power of prayer, positive thoughts, and visualization. It was clear to me that having even more people support Michael energetically would augment his healing process. My intuition nudged me towards the next step. In his book, Healing Words, The Power of Prayer and the Practice of Medicine, Dr. Larry Dawsey, a physician of internal medicine, shares the findings of dozens of experiments together with his observations collected over years. He concluded that prayer does help. I put this option to Michael of asking for more help, and he agreed. Immediately, I began sending email messages about Michael's situation to a large group of family members, friends, and acquaintances, some of whom, at my request, forwarded my messages to their own friends and acquaintances. Michael's name was added to various prayer group lists in Arizona, Toronto, Paris, Israel, South Africa, and Brazil. This was the start of Michael's Healing Circle, a caring group of people who consistently supported Michael, his family, my husband Harold, and me for far longer than I could have imagined when I sent out my first email request. In that first email, I shared information about Michael's diagnosis and treatments. Because many of the people in the circle had never met Michael, I attached pictures of him with his family and some information about him so that everyone could accurately visualize him and have a sense of him as a person. I asked them to pray for his healing, to repeat positive affirmations about his health, and to visualize him in the future fully healed and surrounded by his wife and children. I requested that those who were trained in Reiki please send him healing energy. The responses were supportive and hopeful. Everyone was eager to do something to help Michael and his family. Many expressed their gratitude to me for reaching out and providing a means for them to be actively involved in assisting us. I didn't foresee the extent to which participating in the Healing Circle would be such a positive act for the participants as well as for Michael. I came to a deeper understanding of how acts of kindness enrich the giver as much as the recipient. I was heartened to know that this was so. A few members of the circle later told me that I had provided them with an approach that they now used in their own lives when problems befell their loved ones. Trusting in the efficacy of prayer and positive energy, they turned to others for similar assistance during their own challenging times. Before each treatment or medical consultation that Michael had, I sent detailed, positively worded messages to the Healing Circle, advising them of what was happening and asking for their compassionate support. When Michael got test results or new information about his situation, I immediately shared these updates with the Healing Circle. The messages were always carefully crafted to be as positive and optimistic as possible while being true to the facts. The Healing Circle renewed my faith in goodness and compassion. My next poem is an homage to Michael's Healing Circle and a plea for kindness, for universal love, and for peace. So, this poem is called Loving Kindness, and the poem begins with 4 lines from a poem written by the poet Rumi, who was a very spiritual, influential writer of 900 years ago, and his work is still widely read today. So the few lines from his poem come at the end of each stanza of my own, so you'll hear the lines again. So he wrote, "If fortune is going to be your companion, love must have something to do with you. A life lived without love is no life. It adds up to nothing." Loving kindness. A circle forged from ancient, selfless threads. Hallowed space that shields, sustains. I sense the sacred waters, primordial might curled within unblemished intent. Compassion granted fully, even by strangers. Their sparks touch, tinge old conceptions, champion faith. Fortune becomes my companion. Reverent gifts, memory boxed, infuse time with splendor, enlighten day's dark edge. This little light of mine repeats its refrain to rapt reason until love for pure self grows, scrubs doubt to a saffron sheen, displacing calm's cruel foes. And it's just as you always knew. Love must have something to do with you. The test to love despite dispute. Allow this bomb to proliferate, to close delusion's chasm. Buoyant hope then reappears. Possibility revives. But beware anger's treacherous knife, hungry revenge lingering under the lamppost, scheming. Choose an end to all strife, for a life lived without love is no life, adds up to nothing. I received hundreds of messages of good wishes, and I answered them all, believing in the importance of gratitude and of acknowledging these selfless acts of love. Michael was thankful for the support. He told me that he was calm and at peace before his treatments and that he could feel when he was receiving this energy. A few months later, he told me that during this challenging period, he had felt more calm and at peace than he had in many years. Sometime later, I read a magazine article about cancer medical centers in the United States. Some of the major centers were recommending yoga, Reiki, meditation, and similar modalities for their cancer patients. Why? Studies had shown that staying calm and relaxed significantly slowed the progression of the disease in patients. My intuition had been correct. That brings me to another power we all have, and that's the power of acts of kindness. My gratitude to Michael's healing circle was and remains enormous. I knew that it was very important to acknowledge their kindness and to pay it forward by actively living my thankfulness. How could I do this in a meaningful way? I pondered this question and found my answer. Each day, I aspired to do simple, random acts of loving kindness for strangers. I had no expectations or need for anything in return. In these interactions, I actively sought to connect with the love in my heart and to project the light of that love onto the people around me. Oftentimes, I was rewarded with a smile and a warm glance. This honest, deep awareness of the unity of all beings was a very significant step in my own awakening. I started to keep a gratitude journal and to make entries in it each day. During his Reiki treatments and in his dreams, Michael often saw my dear father of blessed memory. Sensing that his Zadie spirit was nearby was a comfort and a support. We were awed and encouraged by the love and help that Michael was receiving, both on this physical plane as well as on the spiritual plane. And the next poem, not surprisingly, is entitled Zadie. for my father, so Zadie. Zadie's ghost paces Michael's hallways, large hands clasped behind him, broad back straight, gaze infinitely kind. I'll stay beside you, he promises, all the way. Zadie grins, ready for the next joke. Have you grown taller, or am I standing in a hole? Black hair slicked precisely, brown eyes crinkled at the corners. He beams bonhomie. Hovering to Michael's left, his ghostly hand squeezes Michael's shoulder, suffuses his cells with certainty. At 18, Zadie lost parents and young sisters, suffocated in a lye-washed cattle car, headed for Auschwitz. Torn, he'd stepped into the work line with his older brother. They watched their world go up in ashen bursts from the crematorium chimney. In the munitions factory, he slaved for endless days, stole crusts of black bread, snaked along the dirt under the guard's thick boot. Zadie persisted, tailored his way to Canada, rebuilt family. His blood pumps in Michael's veins, ruddy with life, triumphant. I'm a survivor. At this time, Michael started to receive regular visits from an Orthodox rabbi affiliated with a nearby synagogue. They had many long discussions. Michael recited special prayers for healing. He tended to his own spiritual needs, reconnected with his soul, and incorporated his physical experiences within his spiritual self. So the next poem that I've chosen for you is a poem that was inspired by the Mishaberach, the Jewish prayer for healing. So this resonates with the Mishaberach, and it's entitled Prayer for Wholeness. Illness creeps. Merciful One, I pray for recovery of all who are sick or in agony. I harmonize my prayers with the voices of those who love them. Grant them the choice to find courage and renewal, to rejoice in patches of glowing green. Strengthen the healing forces that reside within beings for the soul's good. Guide the hands of those entrusted with their care, for they are tied to this fevered microcosm. Graciously restore their vigor, their spark. Grant them more, a remedy, speedy cure. They stand at the edge of a vast cliff. Help them endure, dissolve unease, infuse each vessel with the salve of peace. There's goodness in accepting help and support from others. Another lesson we learned. Months had passed. Unexpectedly, my friend Leanne came to visit me. She said, "The caregivers need support and backup too, Merle. This has been going on for a year and it's not over yet. What will you be able to offer Michael if you burn out?" She offered to set up a circle of care for us, but I refused. Michael was not open to others coming directly to his aid, but my own energy was greatly depleted, and so I gratefully accepted the home-cooked dinners that Leanne generously brought to our house over the following days. Her generosity was very timely. I reread Rabbi Harold Kushner's book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. He explains that those going through a hard time need the reassurance that they are good people and that they do not deserve what is happening. Studies have shown that the presence of another caring person doubles the amount of pain a person can endure. That, Kushner says, is what God does when he sends us people to be with us in our grief. He gives us the strength to continue on. The positive energy directed to Michael through his own prayers and efforts, as well as from the many months of Reiki, Qigong, prayer visualizations, positive affirmations, and love sent to him by people all over the world, had helped Michael in many ways. It had slowed down the progression of the disease. He was calmer and he felt very supported. He was boosted and comforted emotionally and spiritually by this loving energy, which in turn gave him more strength to keep working to try to heal his body. Lastly, all of this positive energy, love, and prayer had brought Michael to his own spiritual awakening and had given him time to reflect and to find peace. Our greatest power is the enduring power of love. About 5 weeks after Michael died, he came to me in a vivid dream, the first of many that flowed in the coming months. So this is from a poem. This poem, I should say, is about a dream I had a few months after Michael had died, and the name of the poem is Filigree. Filigree. As I lay suspended between breath and ether, Michael gentles my torso open like a page, reveals a silver cylinder sheltering a spark, the pure soul, a Torah scroll, within this vessel, bone and flesh. Hebraic letters cascade, swirl, transmute to sterling bliss. The day after my first vivid dream, I went for a Reiki treatment. Towards the end, as Lois's hands were resting on my stomach, I sensed that I was completely encased by golden light, filling me with warmth and love. I knew that it was Michael. After my treatment, Lois asked me what I had experienced. She then told me that she had felt Michael's presence right from the beginning of the session. She said, Michael was standing near you and sending love to you, a stream of love that he kept beaming and beaming at you. The next day, my friend Linda came to see me. She had been part of the healing circle and a steadfast support during Michael's illness. Before waking that day, Linda had a powerful dream about Michael. He asked her repeatedly, "Please tell my mother that I am feeling much better now. They have told me that I must eat, and now I am eating. Please tell her." Unbeknownst to Linda, I had often pressed Michael to eat more food while he was ill. Linda felt profoundly honored to have been chosen by Michael to deliver this message to me, and I was comforted to know that Michael was fine. "Why do you think he chose me?" "Because you are a spiritual person, and he knew that you would take the dream seriously." Yes, that's all true. In her book, Broken Open, How Difficult Times Can Help Us Grow, Elizabeth Lesser writes about what she calls the Phoenix process. This involves surrendering in a time of great difficulty and permitting the pain to open us so that we can be reborn a stronger, wiser, and kinder being. After a major life change, such as a loss, our reality may be in ashes. A part of the self may have died so that a new aspect can emerge. Our challenges forge us into the people that we are supposed to be. There is no turning back. A new way of living, of moving forward, becomes apparent after the lessons have been learned, after we have submitted to the changes and to the ensuing transformation. I knew that I was guided, supported, and loved through this time of transition. In his book, Have a Little Faith, Mitch Albom shares the wisdom and insights of his childhood rabbi, Albert L. Lewis. The secret of happiness nestles within gratitude for what we have, for the love we receive, and for what God has given us. In respect to the loss of a child, Lewis counsels that we must accept that we were blessed to have our child with us on this earth, even if it was only for a short while, and to take comfort from trusting that we will see our child again. For the first years after Michael's death, I was blessed to receive advice and guidance from my son in various ways, through the messages he shared at my Reiki sessions, through visions and dreams, and through truths that I grasped after my mind cleared and trusted enough to listen. In the reflective gap between thought and action, Michael's gentle presence motivated me to pause and then to act and speak with more care and compassion. Sensing his nearness and knowing that he continued to exist made life bearable. Michael worked tirelessly to help me restore my energy and my zest for life. Oftentimes, I felt a tickle on my cheek or near my lip when I was feeling sad or depressed. In those moments, Michael lifted my spirits. How was it that I was able to sense Michael's presence and to hear his reassurances? What had brought me to this place of trust and openness, to these moments of transcendence? Why me? Why was I so blessed? The answer that I was given starts with the path that I had followed after I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I had always been spiritually oriented, like my mother, but my faith and beliefs had expanded and deepened through my prayers, reading, and experiences. Reiki had greatly expanded my conscious awareness. In addition, many people had prayed for us and sent us loving energy during the years that Michael struggled and after his passing. How could you not be changed by all of this energy, love, and insight? Lois asked. I sought the courage to be completely open, to tell our story as clearly and faithfully as I could. Even in this, Michael was my guide. And this next poem is a ghazal, is the name of it, ghazal, and it's written in couplets, so 2-line stanzas, and the last line, the second line of each stanza has a repeating phrase, so you'll hear that. It's sort of almost like a song with the refrain repeating. So this is entitled The Portal. It's true. Michael did share ethereal perception, thread by luminous thread, wisps of wisdom. Mystery was unpacked, placed in my palms, a crystal ball awaiting wisps of wisdom. I pulled the pieces to my heart, presented them to night's baffled sky, wisps of wisdom. Energy blown from above, infused dance, drum, sea grasses scattering wisps of wisdom. I rolled vibration from throat to belly's hum, down legs to land's core, to wisps of wisdom. Third eye revealed the wondrous cosmos, ancestral links to earthly wisps of wisdom. Detached from glitter, quagmire, and pomp, I stride on tightropes, floating wisps of wisdom. Love is the unifying principle underlying everything. A pure, unconditional love unfettered by the puny views and fears of the ego. Love for ourselves, love for the universe and all that it contains, and love for the divine, for God. Michael showed me that death is an illusion, that the soul is eternal, that love is endless and vast. We are surrounded by miracles, love, and blessings each and every day. If we allow ourselves to gratefully acknowledge, feel, and trust this abundance of good, if we believe that we deserve it, if we release fear and negativity, then positive changes will enter our lives and our soul will begin to mend. And with our own healing, we help to heal this very troubled world. So this troubled world that so desperately needs love, kindness, and above all, peace. So I'm going to end with a poem that is set in Muskoka, by the lake in Muskoka. And it's entitled The Angel Hour. The Angel Hour. Resisting the impulse to blink into the dark, startle at the faint glimmer, my unspoken words loop psalms and prayers for the ethereal, the creatures beyond shuttered windows. Blessed thou art, sings in my veins, atop the waves, gentling the shore, bereft with night's uncertainty. A passing boat rouses the loons. One calls to the night, another to morning's margins. Braided they chant to wind and water, to the endless echoing firmament. So thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have. And I have a few copies of Michael and me with me, so. Okay, so if there's any.
We're a small enough crowd that please feel free, first of all, thank you. On behalf of all of us. We have, as I said before, a way with words, but they're infused with your spirit, and that's what makes them so meaningful to us and reaches deep within our souls, as only, again, you are able to express.
Thank you.
So if anybody has any questions, we're going to have, of course, a little bit to knock after, so you get it. But if anybody has questions now that you'd like Merle to address, either through what she's been sharing through poetry, through words, through her journey, please feel free. Just raise your hand.
Elizabeth?
Hi, Nicole. So thank you, first off, for sharing that. It's really important, I think, for all of us to hear. I only wish this was full because the world could use a lot more view in it. But my question for you specifically is, how long did it take you to write this Michael and Me, this piece of work? How long did this take you, or has it been floating around, or was it a short duration that it came out?
Well, actually, I started this several years ago, and I started it as a memoir. So I have quite a long memoir, and with a lot more information, because I really felt it was important to share what I had learned and experienced with other people. And so it was a memoir that was a kind of a mix of genres, also like self-help for healing, spiritual, and I brought it to the publisher of my 5th book of poems, and they're not focused on spiritual work. There's not many presses that focus on spiritual work. And she encouraged me to change it into poetry, which he thought might resonate better with people. So I did that. So it's been a long time coming to fruition for various reasons, COVID and everything else. But I do have my manuscript, the memoir, and my intent is to self-publish it because I want my grandchildren and some family, I don't want that lost, that information lost. So I will convert it back into a form that several people can have a copy. But I've tried to, the soul of that memoir is here in Michael and Me. Thank you. Any?
Feel free.
Can I ask you, Merle, where do you do most of your writing? Is there a place? Is there my brother's a writer, and he has a certain coffee shop in New York that's where he goes and he sits and he writes. And he's just been published in The Wise Owl, which I was just thinking about while I was hearing your work today. I'm going to tell you all about this publication because I think they would be really happy to have some of your stuff. But is there a certain place?
Well, I love to write at the cottage because it is so peaceful there, and nature is so grounding and so healing. And so this obviously was not an easy book to write. And if I had not been driven by the desire to share the information, to feel it incumbent on me to share the information, I wouldn't have put myself through the pain of writing. But there's a peacefulness at the cottage, so I love writing there. And I have an office. I close myself off in my office, and I will write there as well. I have a wonderful writing group I belong to, very accomplished and very kind group of people, so that I bring my work to, and that's very inspiring too, to have others that can give you feedback and whose work is of such a caliber that it inspires more writing from each of us. So, yes. Yeah. So I have a lot of Muskoka poems in my various collections. Yeah.
When you're reading them now, after obviously time has gone by since you wrote them, when you're reading it now, like, what comes to mind, or is it a wave of emotion, or is it you're just kind of going through the motions because you've worked through a lot of what happened in the past, or does it conjure up a lot of memories and trying to still move forward with everything?
Yes. Well, no, they do evoke memories, and poetry, one of the positives in having the book in the form of poetry is that there's space, there's spaciousness between the lines, between the words, and in poetry for you to bring your own experience into it and to take away what resonates for you based on your own life experience. And as time goes on, and I go back, of course, I'm not the same person now that I was when I wrote it. So it does resonate differently for me now than earlier. But also, depending on the poem, I have to steel myself to be able to read it. And years ago, I worked with a wonderful poet, Molly Peacock, and she said, in choosing what you read for an audience, you have to be kind to yourself as well, as far as how emotionally challenging a piece can be. So, yeah.
How many years has it been that Michael's been gone now from me?
It's 14 years. Yes, it's a long time. So even some of the information, because I wrote the original memoir, probably about 10 years ago now. So I was doing endless research and reading. All I read when Michael was sick was books on healing and energy work, and no fiction, nothing light. And so what I refer to as to the medical centers in the States, the cancer centers, using various calming modalities, I think that's become quite mainstream. But 14 years ago, it wasn't. It wasn't at all. You didn't hear much about that at all. So things have changed in that way. More of an awareness of the mind-body connection. Yeah.
Let me thank you again on behalf of everyone here. But let's go inside. We'll have a little bit to eat, and we'll be able to continue the conversations with you. So thank you again. And one of the things that Merle and I were speaking about is that it's not only the journey that Merle went through in writing this, but as she had mentioned, how it can be of help to us in our own lives, particularly now when we are going through such difficult times. And I think that's the beauty of what you've been able to share with us, is that it's not just for that moment, but it's wisdom that will help us now and certainly in the future.
Yes, thank you for mentioning it. That was my intent. When I came to my desk to write the presentation for tonight, I wrote a different presentation because of what happened on October 7th and since. And my goal, aside from sharing my work and our journey as a family, was to empower listeners to say, in difficult times, we have choices and we have power, and we can make the world a better place, and we can get through the darkness, through the light that lives within each of us.